The moment you decide to walk away without begging, everything shifts. There's an undeniable power in silence, in the absence of desperation, in the refusal to chase what no longer values you. It's human nature to take for granted what seems readily available, what begs to stay, what pleads for another chance. But the second you remove yourself from that equation, the balance tilts. Suddenly, you're no longer the one left wanting. He is. At first, he won't notice. He'll assume you'll always be there just like before. He might even feel a sense of relief, thinking you finally accepted things for what they are. But what he doesn't realize is that the storm is coming. The storm of regret, of realization, of deep, gut-wrenching loss. And that storm only builds when you do the one thing he never expected. You disappear. Without a word, without a fight, without a plea. Begging is a sign of weakness in his mind. It reinforces his belief that he was right to walk away, right to think he had control over the situation. But when you remove that validation, when you don't give him the satisfaction of knowing you're still waiting, something shifts inside him. At first, it's just a small nagging thought, a fleeting question. Why hasn't she reached out? He brushes it off, convinces himself you'll come back. But days pass, then weeks, and the silence begins to weigh on him. He starts checking his phone more often, expecting to see your name pop up. He scrolls through old messages, reading over conversations that once felt insignificant. He remembers the way you used to be, how you always cared, how you were always there, how you never failed to remind him of your presence. And now you're a ghost, a lingering presence in his mind, but nowhere to be found in reality. That's when it starts to hit. The loss, the emptiness, the realization that you were never the problem his ego was. He wanted to believe he had control, but the truth is, he only had control because you allowed it. The second you took that control back, the power dynamic shifted, and now he's the one left feeling the void. And it's not just the absence of your words, your presence, or your love that gets to him. It's the absence of his importance in your life. That's the real pain. Because up until now, he's always felt like he had a place in your world, a certain level of significance that kept him secure. But when you walk away, not with anger, not with tears, but with quiet confidence, he realizes something terrifying. He was never as irreplaceable as he thought. This is the part he never expected. He assumed he could move on without a second thought. That your attachment to him meant you'd never truly let go, but you did. And now every moment of silence is a reminder that you are no longer his. Men are wired for competition, for control, for dominance. When they feel like they've lost something they thought was theirs, it messes with their mind. And nothing hits harder than the realization that you aren't sitting around waiting. You aren't broken. You aren't begging. You've moved on. And worse, you did it without him. He will try to convince himself he doesn't care. He'll distract himself, maybe even jump into something new just to prove a point. But distractions only last so long. Eventually, when the thrill wears off, when the silence becomes deafening, he'll have no choice but to face what he's been avoiding, the pain of losing you. That's when he'll start watching your social media, trying to get a glimpse into your life. He'll overanalyze every post, every story, every subtle hint of happiness that no longer includes him. He'll wonder who you're with, what you're doing, and most importantly, if you even think about him at all. And when he realizes that you don't, or at least that you no longer show it, that's when it will truly hit. And here's the beauty of it all. By then, you won't even care. You won't need his validation. You won't crave his attention, because the moment you walked away without begging, you started the most important journey of all, rediscovering your own worth. And that's something he'll never be able to take from you again. So let him feel the loss. Let him sit with the silence. Let him realize on his own what he threw away. Because the pain of losing you will hit him hard, and by the time he understands what he had, it will be too late. The most powerful thing you can do after walking away is to level up in every way possible. When someone expects you to crumble without them, the greatest revenge is proving that you were never dependent on them to begin with. There is no need for arguments, no need for explanations, and certainly no need for closure. The only thing that truly matters is what you do next. How you take the pain, the frustration, the loss, and turn it into fuel for something greater. At first, you might feel the weight of it all. The silence can be deafening. The habit of having someone there can make the absence feel unbearable. But this is the defining moment. This is where most people make the mistake of waiting for an apology, waiting for them to realize what they lost, waiting for some kind of sign that they still care. But waiting is just another form of attachment, another way of keeping yourself stuck in a cycle that doesn't serve you. The second you shift your mindset from waiting to working, from hurting to healing, everything changes. It starts with discipline. Emotion will tell you to stay in bed, to overthink, to check their social media, to replay conversations in your head. But discipline tells you to get up, to hit the gym, to work on your goals, to build the life that was always meant for you. And that's the difference between people who stay stuck and people who thrive. The ones who stay stuck give into emotion, while the ones who thrive use that emotion as fuel to become unstoppable. When you start improving yourself, something powerful happens. You begin to realize that your worth was never tied to them in the first place. It was never about whether they stayed or left, whether they appreciated you or took you for granted. Your value was always within you, and now you have the chance to prove it, not to them, but to yourself. You hit the gym not because you want to show them what they lost, but because you refuse to be anything less than your best. You start focusing on your finances not to impress them, but because financial independence is freedom. You work on your mindset not to make them regret, but because a strong mind is the foundation of an unbreakable person. Every step you take towards self-improvement is a step away from the past, a step towards a version of you that no longer seeks validation from anyone. And make no mistake, they will notice. It might not happen immediately, but at some point they will see the transformation. They will hear about your progress, see the confidence in your posture, sense the energy shift that comes when someone truly levels up. And when that realization hits, it won't just be a minor regret. It will be a deep, undeniable understanding that they underestimated you. Nothing haunts a person more than realizing they misjudged someone's potential. When they see that you became everything they thought you couldn't be, when they realize that losing them didn't break you but built you, that's when the regret sets in, because now they can't reach you. You're no longer accessible in the way you once were. The old version of you, the one they knew, the one they thought they could leave behind, is gone. And in its place stands someone stronger, smarter, and completely out of their league. This is the power of self-transformation. When you level up, you shift the entire dynamic. You are no longer the one looking back, wondering what could have been. You are the one moving forward, focused on what's ahead. And that energy is magnetic. People are drawn to those who elevate themselves, who refuse to settle, who keep pushing forward no matter what. Silence is the most powerful response you can give. It speaks louder than words, louder than any argument, louder than any emotional plea. When someone expects a reaction, when they expect you to fight, to cry, to beg for their attention, the moment you choose to give them nothing, everything shifts. That's when they start to feel the void, the absence, the undeniable realization that you were never as dependent on them as they thought. At first, they won't take it seriously. They'll assume you're just playing a game, that you're waiting for them to reach out, that sooner or later you'll crack. Because that's what most people do. Most people can't handle silence. They feel the need to explain, to seek closure, to make their presence known in some way. But not you. You've mastered the art of restraint, of control, of understanding that real power comes not from reacting, but from refusing to engage. When you stop texting, when you stop calling, when you stop checking up on them, something shifts in their mind. They may not notice immediately, but over time, the weight of your silence begins to settle in. It starts as a passing thought. Why haven't they reached out? They might brush it off at first, thinking you're just trying to prove a point, but as the days go by and you remain unreachable, they start to question everything. They wonder if you've moved on, if someone else has caught your attention, if maybe, just maybe, they were never as important to you as they believed. And that's when doubt starts creeping in. That's when the ego takes a hit. Because up until now, they've always felt a sense of control, a sense of certainty, that you would always be there, lingering in the background, waiting for them to come back. But now, there's nothing. No messages, no calls, no signs of longing, just silence. And it drives them crazy, because the one thing people fear most is irrelevance. The idea that someone who once cared so deeply could suddenly stop, could move on without hesitation, is something the mind struggles to accept. It forces them to confront their own worth, their own significance, And that's a feeling most people aren't prepared for. They'll start looking for signs, checking your social media, asking mutual friends about you, trying to piece together clues about where you are, what you're doing, and most importantly, how you're doing without them. And when they realize that you're not struggling, that you're not broken, that's when it truly hits. Because silence isn't just the absence of noise, it's the presence of strength. It shows that you are in control, that you are unshaken, that you do not need to explain yourself to anyone. And when someone sees that their absence has had no visible impact on your life, they start to question everything. Maybe they misjudged you. Maybe they underestimated your strength. Maybe they were wrong about who had the real power in the situation. And that thought alone will keep them up at night, replaying moments in their mind, wondering if they made the wrong choice. And then, just when they're about to reach out, just when they're on the edge of breaking their own pride, they hesitate. Because now the dynamic has shifted. Now they're the ones overthinking, the ones wondering if you'll even respond, if you'll even care. The uncertainty that they once made you feel is now consuming them. And that's the moment they truly begin to feel your absence. But by then it's too late. Because while they were stuck in their own mind trying to figure out what went wrong, you were moving forward. You weren't waiting, you weren't hoping, you weren't looking back, you were building, evolving, becoming someone who no longer seeks validation from those who once doubted you. And that's the real victory. Not proving a point, not making them regret, but reaching a place where their presence or absence no longer defines your happiness, where you understand that your worth was never tied to their acknowledgement, but to your own ability to rise above the noise, to stay focused, to remain untouchable. So let them wonder, let them sit in their own silence, let them feel the weight of their own choices. Because in the end, the one who remains calm, the one who stays silent, the one who refuses to be shaken is the one who truly holds all the power. The best thing you can do after walking away is to win, truly win in every aspect of life. Not for revenge, not to prove anything to anyone, but because success is the ultimate form of self-respect. It's easy to fall into the trap of seeking validation, hoping they'll see what they lost, waiting for that moment when they regret walking away. But the truth is, the moment you shift your focus from them to yourself, everything changes. The moment you stop looking back and start building the life you deserve, they will feel your absence in a way they never expected. At first, they won't notice. They will assume you're struggling, that you're stuck in the same place, that maybe you're waiting for them to return. Because that's what people expect when they think they had control over you. They believe their departure left you lost, uncertain, incomplete, but you took that pain and turned it into power. Instead of drowning in self-pity, you built yourself into someone they can no longer reach. You started making moves, hitting the gym, working on your goals, surrounding yourself with winners, elevating your mindset. Every day you became stronger, more confident, more focused, and with each step forward, you left behind the version of yourself they once knew. The version that tolerated less than they deserved. The version that might have settled. That version no longer exists. Then, one day, they see it. Maybe they stumble upon your profile. Maybe a mutual friend mentions you. Maybe they just feel the shift in the air. But suddenly they realize you're not the same person. They see the glow in your skin, the fire in your eyes, the way you carry yourself differently. They see that you're thriving, that life didn't just go on without them, it got better. And that realization hits them harder than anything else ever could. Because here's the truth, people expect to be missed. They expect you to crumble, to be lost without them. But when they see that you're not just surviving, but thriving, that's when the regret sinks in. That's when they start questioning everything. And the worst part for them, there's nothing they can do about it. They'll wonder if you ever really cared, if they mattered as much as they thought, if someone else has taken their place. And the answer is simple. You cared, but you chose yourself. You mattered, but not more than your own growth. And no one has taken their place because you've elevated to a level where their presence is no longer required. They might try to come back to test the waters to see if they still have access to you. Maybe they like an old post, send a casual message, try to reinsert themselves in your life in subtle ways. But you won't fall for it because by the time they realize what they lost, You'll be too far ahead for them to catch up. So keep winning, keep leveling up, keep building a life so powerful, so fulfilling that looking back isn't even an option. Because the best response to anyone who doubted you, took you for granted, or underestimated you is simple: become someone they can never have again.